White House considering return of Russian compounds seized by U.S. over alleged spying. The Russian compound in Oyster Bay, Long Island, was vacated in late December. The Trump administration could give back 2 Russian diplomatic compounds, one on Long Island and another in coastal Maryland, that were seized late last year during a wave of sanctions against the country, according to a report. The facilities, long believed to be used for intelligence gathering, were cleaned out on December 29 as then-President Obama slammed Russia with sanctions for its alleged role in trying to influence the 2016 election. The White House is now exploring turning the estate's one, of which is in Oyster Bay, back over to Moscow, The Washington Post reported. But it comes at an awkward time, however, as Congress and the FBI investigate whether members of the Trump campaign colluded with Russia to influence the election in the president's favor. Trump lawyer Michael Cohen is new focus of Russia investigation. A Trump administration official, in early May, spoke with a Russian counterpart about potentially returning the compounds, the newspaper reported. In return, Russia would have to lift a 2014 sanction that's halted the U.S. from building a consulate in St. Petersburg, Russia's second-largest city. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson changed course 2 days later, however, when meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Russian Ambassador to the U.S. Sergei Kislyak in Washington, D.C. No link would be made between the U.S. and Russian properties, he reportedly told the diplomats. R.C. Hammond, a top State Department advisor, told The Washington Post that the U.S. and Russia have reached no agreements and senior officials won't meet again until June. Russia claimed it had derogatory intelligence on Trump. Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov told the Sputnik news agency that Russia had the right to take back the St. Petersburg property if these steps are not somehow adjusted by the U.S. side. The Washington Post reported that Trump officials are specifically looking at whether to grant diplomatic immunity for the compounds if they're returned. Without the protection, U.S. law enforcement can investigate it like any other stateside structure, according to the Washington Post. Another facility, in Centerville, Maryland, was also emptied as part of the sanctions. Federal officials forced Russian diplomats out of the 2 facilities on December 29. Obama also booted 35 diplomats he said were acting as intelligence agents. The Oyster Bay estate, located on Long Island's North Shore and purchased by the Soviet Union in 1952, was commonly used for diplomatic purposes, Russian officials said in December. Then Russian ambassador to the UN Vitaly Churkin at the time shamed the U.S. for emptying the compound out during the holiday season. "I think it's quite scandalous that they chose to throw out our kids," said Churkin, who died in February. "They know full well that those 2 facilities they mentioned, they are vacation facilities for our kids, and this is Christmas, and this is vacation time for our schools." Russia didn't retaliate against the U.S. sanctions over the election hack. It was later revealed that future National Security Advisor Michael Flynn discussed potentially lifting the sanctions with Kislyak during the transition. Flynn left his White House job after barely 3 weeks when it was revealed he misled Vice President Mike Pence, who headed the transition team, about what he discussed with Kislyak. Getting the compounds back could mean that Kislyak is set to become the UN's Under-Secretary General for Counterterrorism, according to The Washington Post. Kislyak, who met with multiple other members of the Trump campaign, is set to leave his post as Russian ambassador in Washington, which he assumed in 2008. Send a letter to the editor.